deck of cards. You just need a partner, decide if you want to do addition, subtraction, or multiplication, and deal them out. Winner takes all. So here we go, Ted. An 8 for you, a 1 for me. We're doing multiplication now, boys and girls. 8 times 7, 56 for Mr. Martinez. 8 times 1, 8. Teddy, you won again.
Nice.
Hey, Cougars, it's Principal Martinez and his dog, Teddy. Today,
his dog, Teddy. And now we've got Ward and his dog, Eli.
Okay, what'd you get? 9. Okay, what does Eli get?
A 6.
6, okay.
8, 1, 10.
Okay, so you have 10. 6 plus 13? Oh no, 11. 6 plus 11. What is that?
A jack.
Okay, 11 plus 6.
17. Eli wins.
Yay!
Eli wins. And then one more for the road. We have Principal Martinez, and there's also assistant principal who does a little bit of a song, and everyone knows I'm a sucker for reggae, so we're just gonna have to indulge Shane for 1 second.
Hey Carpenter Cougars, parents, students, it's Mr. Gordon. Just like you, my 2 sons, Xavier and Lorenzo, just finished their Monday school assignments. One of our favorite things to do at the Gordon household when we finish up with our schoolwork is play or listen to some really cool music. At the Gordon house, we love listening to Bob Marley and the sweet, sweet sounds of reggae music. It's important to take some time this week to pace yourself through the schoolwork and take time to relax with your family.
Goodness.
There we go, guys.
So Shane entered the room right there. That was Shane.
I love that. I had to leave that last drum thing. So, hey, first of all, welcome everyone to the second episode of Driving Optimism. We wanted to start off with a little bit of a video showing you life inside Carpenter Charter. And we have with us a guest today. We're going to do our first interview. We're really excited to have Anna Liza Bella with us. So hi, ALB.
Hi.
And we've got Jim Galindo over there as well. So we did mention last week we were going to make up an imaginary co-host to blame things on. I want to be very clear that's not Anna Liza. It's a coincidence she showed up on our second, third episode, depending on how you slice it. But really quickly, we're Driving Optimism, a podcast about problem solving. And right now we're talking about problem solving during our current context of the coronavirus. And the episode today is The Kids Are Going to Be Ahead. We're going to talk about how this situation has caused a change in the home as far as schooling, education, and even community and relationships. And so we're really pleased to have Anna Liza with us today. Next week, we're going to do a show with a principal, not Principal Martinez, but another principal. And so stay tuned for that next week. But without further ado, ALB, I'll hand it over to you for the intro.
All right, thanks. So I'm coming to you from Studio City, California. That's where our Carpenter Community Charter is. That's our special little public school that is a community school. We have about 1,000 kids at the school. So it is not a small school by any standards, but that's K through 5th. And so my son goes there right now. He's in 2nd grade. And then I have a daughter who went there for K through 5th, and she is now, however, a 7th grader. So 12 going on, 22, and and then my 8-year-old is still the wild boy. And we've been living here for about 8 years, and just love this community. And so part of what I wanted to share today was how our school has really been handling what we're calling sort of distance learning. And then, kind of talking about the changes and the things that have sort of happened in our home to handle this very unprecedented situation, right? I think that's that's what I got for you. If you have any specific questions, we can start there.
Cool. Yeah. Well, hey, let's drive in, shall we say? And then, Lisa, maybe we could start with before. Tell me a little bit about your house before these situations. We have had lots of discussions around screen time and digital communications. You and I, just for a little more context, work together in the digital media world. So social media, we've always been chatting about these things. So give us a little bit of a snapshot of before.
Sure.
Great. Thank you.
So yeah, actually both my husband and I have worked in the digital world, pretty much kind of pioneered with the internet back in the 90s. So we've kind of been there since the get-go, and being sort of in the digital space and really understanding how all of the back end of it works. And again, as Shane was saying, sort of done our time there. We know what is happening behind the scenes. We know how information is collected, how data is tracked, all these things that are part of that world, or part of how you interact with that media, and why it's so specifically tailored really to people, right? And you can't get that kind of level of customization without knowing things about people. And so knowing that, and knowing all that dark magic social media networks use, probably most egregiously Facebook, but probably stretching to just about every platform, and knowing how they scrape that information, knowing how kids are being exposed to this information at very early ages, we just felt like we wanted to kind of draw that line in the sand for our own kids. And so you'll find this a lot actually in Silicon Valley. Almost all of the big entrepreneurs have very strict, regimented schedules about screen time and about what their kids do. They send all their kids to Waldorf schools where you're not even supposed to interact with screens. So I think that genie is out in terms of people who really understand the business. And so we had already started with this idea of really controlling screen time. What are you doing when you are on a screen? Is it creative? Is it interactive? Or are you just sitting there sort of, taking in information and just scrolling through a feed? And then, what kind of access do you have? What kind of privacy is there for those kids? So all of that had been on our mind. My husband actually wrote a book about Shel Silverstein's, it's kind of like a parody of The Giving Tree, but it's a children's book about the dangers of living your life too heavily in social media, and it's called The Liking Tree. So again, all of this is in our head. Our daughter started this screen-free Saturdays group where, she would force us as a family to disconnect for one whole day a week and rediscover kind of simple things like playing board games and reading and gardening and hiking and art and all that stuff. So all of this was literally in the weeks, right? As this all was starting to come about. And then, and then this happened. So that was our world already. It was really trying to understand our relationship with screens. And now here we are.
So, I mean, there's lots to go into, and again, I hope we come back and talk in greater depth and bring John on as well to talk about that. I've already thought about that as a future podcast. But for today, you telling us how you communicated or kind of were curatorial and thoughtful about your communications on digital platforms and in other platforms before, specific to communication and you with communication with the school or even with your family, has anything changed now with the tools you use for communication? Or how you use those tools, and just kind of specifically communication, just for maybe a minute or so, and then we'll have Jim kind of lead us into kind of some of the heart of the matter and where we are now with the schooling bit. But I'm really curious about the transition in communications as a group in the prior world where you were limiting to now where we really need to use that to reach out to people. I know you have a distributed family, you know, and then you have
yeah. Well, so I have most of my family's in Florida, and my husband's family is in Vermont. So yeah, I mean, we are letting the kids do a lot more FaceTime and a lot more, like they're sending little videos to their cousins, and we try to kind of make it private though. So like that's the big difference is like we are letting them back on the screens, but all of this is happening on sort of more private things, whether it's like a group chat with the family or or just like kind of in an email. My daughter has actually been writing like emails through her private account to her grandparents, and and then my son, same thing. He's been like, he'll type out a little letter first and then copy it into like an email format and send it. So, we're letting them kind of use the screens in that very kind of guided way. But we don't really like to have them be out like in public in social media, particularly my daughter, because she's 12 and she really should control her own, her own image and who she is out in the world. So she knows that. And so we're very good about like kind of controlling that. But yeah, I mean, we were just talking as a family, like, are we going to use Zoom on Easter Sunday to all connect with each other? Yeah. And, is it going to work on grandma and grandpa's phones? And, somebody better get grandma that iPhone XR so that she can handle Zoom.
Or have a practice run before you actually have the real thing, because they need to be prepped and upskill pretty quickly to be able to do it.
Seriously.
Moving on beyond communication, we want to talk to you about crisis schooling. So there's been a bit of sharing on the interwebs about crisis schooling. Can you tell me your take on what that means and your experience in crisis schooling?
Yeah. Well, first off, I just want to say it definitely is crisis schooling, because there's no way that this teacher is certified. In fact, I almost got fired on the last day of school before spring break by my son. The interesting thing is I have like two very different experiences. So for my daughter, we have like an amazing experience. She goes to a smaller private school that's contracted with the district, and her class is like maybe 7 kids. And so they've been doing this amazing distance learning where they go into Google Meets, they take attendance, she's in there with her teachers, and they're actually moving through new curriculum, and new material. And it's all being done through Google Classroom, Meets, and and then turning in the stuff, scanning things in, and even doing PE. Like I think I sent Shane a video of like her PE class, which is like in her room. Totally ridiculous. So that's her world. Her classroom is in her room, and she does that every day and sort of logs into that, and that's great. I don't have anything to do with that. That is going fantastically. The other thing that I have a lot to do with is my son's, which is because he's in second grade and because it's a public school. I think there's just a lot of disparities in terms of like how to deliver a proper curriculum. So I would say like the first week was pretty bad. And so the video you saw at the beginning was me taking hints from our principal's Twitter as to activities that are still learning activities that I could do with my son, given that I have zero like background in education.
You seem to be adapting. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Education. What's that?
You seem to be adapting really well to the circumstance, even though it may not feel like it. What do you see as the major problems for you as a family that you need to overcome, and how is technology helping you, or is it a barrier, or are there other solutions that are better that could be in place considering this circumstance?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's I think every day is different. So
can I qualify that question? Sorry,
yeah.
Jim, are you talking about all technology or like education technology? Because I think
I would say people are probably using all technology as a to fill gaps.
Fair point. Okay, so we'll stop. Yeah. Continue, Anna Liza.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think what's hard is, so my son actually has an IEP. which is an individualized education plan. And so, those are specific for kids with learning disabilities. And so he does have a learning disability. And that's one of the reasons why I think I'm not doing a great job, is because, usually he has an entire team of people who really focus on how to sort of get through those issues that he has, right? And so now, because our government has actually not done anything about what they're doing with regards to special education in the public school systems, there's talk of maybe even waiving all special education because they just can't deliver that service,
Yep.
So and there's no guidance right now on that front. So why I said I nodded a lot when you said crisis schooling is because that's literally all you're doing, is you're
Yep.
just kind of hanging on with your fingernails. And like I said, every day is very different for me and for my son, because, I don't do this. And I should be doing other things. I should be writing. I should be, there are a lot of things I'm supposed to be doing, because
Yeah.
even though I'm an independent contractor and I work for myself, there's work that I should be doing, but I can't even do it between the hours of, 8 to 2:30
Yeah.
p.m. because I'm focused on trying to stay on schedule with him. I mean, the biggest things I would say is, if you want to have some modicum of success, you really need to have a schedule, but you need to be flexible. And
Yep.
so I think people who have a very fixed mindset, who are this is the way it's got to be or else, this is going to be really hard for them.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
happen to be a go with the flow kind of person,
Yeah.
but I also know certain things about my own kid. So I know that he needs things like a lot of movement before having to focus on something that's really hard, right?
Yeah.
So we do a yoga meditation first thing in the morning. So we listen to the principal's announcements on YouTube, and then we go right into yoga meditation. We listen to the sounds of a spring, and then do kind of 15 minutes of that, and then we jump into
Yeah.
whatever is an academic portion, and then you just kind of play it by ear, because for instance, we were supposed to be using technology, this thing called Schoology, to log in and find out what he was supposed to be working on that day. Well, Schoology is this, oh my God, it's this bloated software that the district uses, and it's supposed to be used by the teachers, and you can find their grades in it. Everything is in there, but it's a mess. And when you suddenly have almost 700,000 people trying to log into it at the same time on the same day, it's going to crash. So there's that, So technology can only do so much.
Yep.
You also have to have a sense of what can I do? When can I do it? Oh, it's not working right now. Well, let's not get frustrated. Let's just move on.
So there's a lot of layered problems in there. So it sounds like there's some policy problems at the government level. There's some funding problems within that as well. There's some technology problems clearly across a number of platforms.
Yeah.
Plus there's personal problems and specifically conflicts where work schedules. I know a number of my friends are posting comments where we both work from home now. And how do we manage more than 2 or 3 kids, while we have meetings all day long, both of us? And these people, their
bandwidth
crisis
issues.
is bandwidth, yes. So
There's no bandwidth.
it's a multi-layered problem.
Energy.
that there's not a lot of help other than moral support from your friends, because your friends can't come over and help you. It's
Right.
pretty challenging. We're lucky, our situation here, but everyone I talk to, it's very different, and it sounds nightmarish almost.
Yeah. I would say also what you just pointed out about friends. So I have a group of parent friends that I'm really tight with. And, we're always on these group texts. So when something's going down with, the system, or something's not working, or we can't find something, we're do you have this? And it's that quick and dirty, text thread that, gets you that assignment or whatever. So you don't have to spend 20 minutes trying to download it, So having that connection of groups, small groups of people who are kind of more intimate and who are, again, it's private. So it's they're going to have your back.
Yeah.
So it's everything from recipes to like last week's math sheets, you know.
And this is like in a WhatsApp group, or this is in
it's like just a group text on, you know, on iMessage, or we have this thing called Group Me. So we use that quite a bit. Yeah.
So this is a great segue, right? Because, you know, some Group Me, you mentioned when you and I were talking, you know, in a couple of years back about communication. So Group Me is something that was there before, still using now. So my question really is kind of, I guess, twofold. If we look forward, what do you think is gonna, you know, stay? What do you think we're going to keep that was new, or it's just going to stick in a way that it hadn't quite stuck before? What are we going to get rid of? And think about like a year or two down the track as far as like the time frame for this. And then what's still missing? What's still that problem in the nexus between family and community and school and learning and home and nurturing? What's still missing there? And then I know, you know, I guess ending up with, what do you think the outcome is going to be for these kids that have gone through this learning experience? So we'll just kind of wrap up with those questions. And
sure. I mean, I think what's going to happen is, I call it like, there's going to be like parents who are going to say, here's the hack, and this is how you get out of Schoology, or like, you know, how you get through that. And so there's always going to be like the things that you use because that's the hack, you know, and whatever that is for whatever moment, right? Like we were just saying, you know, so we've been doing like Zoom play dates and FaceTime play dates, you know, and, you know, that technology is wonderful and exists, you know, but so I think like those things are always going to be, you know, used in some capacity because I think they are effective in sort of having that way for kids to, you know, to still connect with each other, even if they're apart. The other thing that was really interesting is I actually think kind of letter writing, or like this idea of sort of like expressing yourself in a much more thoughtful way, is something that's kind of making a resurgence because these kids have to do it. So we've been doing these drive-bys where we drive to like someone's house, like find their mailbox, and then like wear with gloves and our masks on, like drop off the letter for the kid. And then meanwhile, and by the way, the reason why I can't mail it is because my kid has like drawn dinosaurs and put stickers all over it. And it is like impossible to send through the U.S. Postal Service now, you know. So we have to do drive-bys. And then we did these birthday drive-bys. So people like get in their cars and like drive over to someone's street, and then they just honk their horns and hold up signs like saying happy birthday to like whoever the kid is that's having a birthday that day. So, you know, like things like that, which again are like kind of unique to this moment, but you're using things that you've always had, right? So I think those things are going to stick around. I think, you know, those little group texts are still going to be around because they always were. They were what we were using to be in touch with each other before, and we're going to still use them now. And then I think it's just really about using the tech to kind of cobble together those relationships in a way that's meaningful. You know, the one thing that I've been doing with my kids is doing this travel virtually. So like every day this week, since it's spring break and we can't go anywhere, we've been traveling to a different country, and then like just learning a little something about that country, watching a movie that was set in that country, and then, you know, eating food from that country. And so teaching them, you know, like about a place by like experiencing things about it that again maybe we wouldn't have had the time to do if we were actually like off on a camping trip, you know. Like,
so what about moving forward? Like, what do you think is going to stick long term? In terms of, there's this adaptability that people are adjusting to,
having
things
to
now,
learn.
But you know, do you see an outcome for, you know, somebody's got to step in and solve some of these problems? I mean, obviously government needs to do its part, but also from a technological point of view, or just culturally, even culture might change to adapt to this.
Yeah, Jim, I'm just going to stop you there just because of timing and switch the question up just to go back to the question of the outcomes of the education. That I wanted to just give Emily that opportunity to answer that second part of the question. Apologies, Jim.
No, that's all right.
I'll let you close it out.
No, and I think I can answer Jim's question in relationship to that. So, you know, one of the things I've been thinking a lot about for my kids is, this idea that a lot of parents that I know have an opinion that the kids are going to be behind, that these kids are not going to graduate with some of the same skills or some of the same knowledge or academic, focus that, kids have had in the past, because they're missing, in effect, like, 3.5 months of school, right? Especially if we continue through the end of the year, which isn't set yet, but likely, right? So now what I've been thinking a lot about, though, is that, what this moment in time affords us is a way of sort of looking at things with a different light, right? And so this idea of like, what if the kids are not behind, but they're actually ahead? Because this moment in time is creating opportunities for them to learn about things that are things that they wouldn't have learned about otherwise, And
Yep.
I liken this a little bit to, Depression era people. And, like I've had this discussion with Shane, it's like my in-laws were born, and lived through the Great Depression. So they have these memories of like recipes like Depression era cake, where you don't use eggs or butter or, milk, right? And so you gotta like make do what you got, And so this notion of sort of like cooking with whatever is there, making do with what what is right in front of you, improvising,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Or being open to improvisation, being open to looking outside and noticing that the flowers bloomed, and like I never noticed it happened at this time last year, right? Or noticing new things about the world around you that you never saw before, because again, you're now spending that time going on these like daily walks and sort of seeing, as the spring blooms, like what's happening in everybody's yard, like
Yeah.
noticing that the doves are building a nest, like at the neighbor's house next door. So these are all, I call these learning opportunities, and I do think that what these kids are going to get out of it, this idea of empathy and like kind of understanding people in a deeper way than just like kind of this very superficial social media, like way that we
Yeah.
know people, right? And kind of, and making do with whatever is there in front of you, and being bored sometimes, and, just not always having everything your way exactly at the moment that you want it,
Yep.
I don't know. I mean, I think it is an argument for like maybe this generation of kids are actually going to be able to do something wildly different and be, kind of more resilient, and be kids who are, in some ways going to be ahead, maybe just not in the ways that we kind of always judge the world,
Yep. Great. That's good. Yeah. I mean, that makes perfect sense, because, we diverse experience makes people more creative and better and empathetic. And, we were talking about that earlier. So that's fantastic. Shane, where are we? How are we doing?
Yeah, we're ready to wrap up, Jim. If you want to bring us home, I was going to give that torch to you, or I can wrap us up if you'd like.
I'm just thinking about I'll think about my son, what it's going to be like for him. And initially I was worried, and I mean, I still kind of am, but we're adapting. Everyone else is adapting. I worry about some children that maybe are in environments that are not adapting, but I don't have any control over that. And I wish I had more influence over that. Hopefully somebody comes in and solves that problem. But yeah, those are the things I'm thinking about as a result of this conversation. What about you, Shane?
Yeah, well, I guess it's always great to talk to Anna Liza, and it's interesting to talk about this topic because I don't, have kids, so I don't see it, but I'm trying to understand it. So it's been really helpful to understand kind of what's going on. And then next week we'll kind of hear from the principal's perspective in a different state, which will be really cool. But I just want to really re-emphasize what Anna Liza just said about these life skills and like creative problem solving and thinking in your feet and having this concept of self-efficacy. I can do it. I don't know what's going on, but I know somehow within me, I can figure out how to make this work because I've been in an awkward, undefined situation before, and I made my way out. And that's probably really the best life skill you could give anyone is that self-efficacy, the agency, I can do it. So I love Anna Liza's perspective here, and I hope more parents hear that success is being a human, a citizen, a great person in a community and making a contribution beyond yourself. It is not your rank in line for the preschool that costs 50 grand a year, that's going to give you limited inputs and limited perspectives and limited Annalise and I in the beginning, this unfortunately won't be able to talk about this part, but she mentioned her school has like a queue, a valet with different cars. And I hope everyone gets to go to a school that has multiple cars and kids walking in as well, because that variety of perspective is the only way we're really going to be able to think differently and solve really complex problems that involve all of us. So that was very long-winded.
No, it was great. It succinctly described what, some of the things that we've said very well. And diversity in any environment is key to making people more empathetic and understanding and able to approach problems from different perspectives and how they solve them. So you highlighted a great point, Shane.
Cool. Well, hey guys, mahalo. Tell Lucas I said aloha. ALB,
I will.
Give my best to your family as well, and everyone who tuned in overall all over the world on YouTube and other platforms. Thank you for your time today and your attention, and I hope this was thought-provoking and useful, and I hope to continue the conversation and see you here next week. In the meantime, please subscribe, the big red button on the YouTube screen below. Tell all your friends, send the link, and we'll see you here next week.
Respect.
Bye.